Okay. Well, welcome everyone to the Mobil Delvac Pro Talk. We are so excited that you joined us here today because what we want to talk about is about you. We are your advocates and we want to shine a light on the importance of trucking and the individuals like yourselves that power the industry. And those are the drivers and technicians, and really share with you what Project 61 and ASE are here to do to help evaluate and bring that forward. So just to kind of set a little expectations, this is meant to be an informal conversation. We want to get questions from you all, and we even might have some fun prizes to encourage you guys to participate, so be ready for that. My name is Leah Scott, and I am the National Account Commercial Executive at ExxonMobil. So I have the pleasure of managing all of our truck stop relationships. So I appreciate all of you that go into Love's and TA and Southern Tire Mart and Boss Trucking to get your oil changes and fuel services. So here with me today, I have two exceptional leaders in the industry with Jeremy and George. So I'll allow you guys to introduce yourselves.
Good afternoon. My name is George Arrants. I'm the Vice President of the ASE Education Foundation. I started off as an automotive technician. I work with schools and industry to develop the future workforce for our industry.
And I'm Jeremy Reymer, founder and CEO of Project 61, which is a nonprofit focused on truck driver health and wellness. And this is after serving about 22 years in the industry, both as a carrier as well as on the vendor side with technology.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. All right. So we are here today to talk to you guys about the technicians and the drivers who are really the two pillars of the trucking industry, and one that keeps, the truck operating safely and keeping really the economy going. Without you guys, we wouldn't get all the goods and services and things that we like to operate in our day-to-day life. In fact, 66% of diesel shops are understaffed today. So when I think about maintenance, we need more people. We need to be advocates to show how important this side of the business is and how a career is beneficial to those who are looking for that type of job. With that being said, as fleet managers, shop owners, this shortage has a direct impact on, your business, from keeping your trucks operational and your staff safe on the road. So, George, why are associations like ASE so important to address these challenges?
It's a great question. On the foundation side where I work, we accredit or certify high school and college auto collision and diesel programs to national standards to ensure that program has all the resources it needs to properly prepare a young person to come to work for you. And we have about 1,800 of them around the country. The other interesting piece is most communities do not have what we call a diesel program, and people think there's nobody there to work in my shop. But 23% of high school automotive students want to work on trucks or heavy equipment. It's just that we don't go to that school and recruit. There's a lot of students out there that are training today to come to work for you. And the biggest thing you can do is just get involved in your local program and get to meet those students, drive your brand and your company, and you will find that those students will gravitate to you and your opportunities.
Awesome. Thanks, George. I have to say, working over at the booth today, it's been really cool to see some of this next generation of, diesel technicians come by, and they're super excited about getting out in the field and working on trucks. And it just brings joy to what the industry has in the future. So switching focus from drivers, or switching focus to drivers, they are the backbone of the U.S. economy. I think we can all agree there, right? So anybody in the audience, or we have any drivers here today? Raise your hands. Oh, yeah. All right. This side's looking pretty strong. We got any drivers over there? There we go. Woman in trucking. I love that. Nice to see you here. So, drivers are obviously essential, right, in U.S. commerce. In fact, 70% of the freight and underpinning nearly every sector today is delivered by people like you. So, driver health and fatigue are national safety issues that I'm sure you guys hear about. And with fleets shifting towards proactive wellness, being more active, sleep management, mental health programs, why are associations like Project 61 so important? You think you could address this?
Yeah, so real quick on the name Project 61, and this is something that some of you may be familiar with, but the relevance to that number, it's the average life expectancy of a truck driver. And if you just let that sink in, you recognize that's not okay, right? We can do better than that. I think it's it's a tough job. I'm not going to try to oversell the job. It's super important and we need it, and it is the backbone of the country. However, the trade-off cannot be 16, 17 years off of your life. So we've got to reconcile that, and that's the point of Project 61, is to help provide resources, education. It's all free. It's all supported really by all facets of the industry, including Mobil Delvac. It's something that's really important because at the end of the day, while trucking is, again, a really important job, your real true job is probably a parent, possibly, right? Or even a grandparent. You want to be able to come home at night. You want to be able to see your spouse, your children, your family, or whatever it is that is really the reason to live. You don't want to forfeit that. And so that's sort of my driving force for the why behind Project 61.
It really is an awesome project. I think you guys have a booth here this weekend, and also a dedicated room where you guys are doing assessments.
There's research going on to really, because we don't have enough good data in the industry to help. There's not been a lot of resources dedicated to drivers specifically from a research standpoint around vitality, epidemiology, that sort of thing. So yeah, it's exciting. There's a lot of momentum.
Awesome. I'll tell you guys a story. So about 10 years ago, I was the Mobil Delvac brand manager, and we partnered with a trucking company and also a dog food company, Pedigree. And we developed a campaign called Mutts for Trucks, and we actually tracked drivers. We picked 3 of them, and we tracked them, and having adopted a dog, that got them out walking more, socializing more. They, lost weight. They were more active. Their mental health was stronger. They slept better because they were more active. And so, I think things like Project 61 are really there to help make your life better and get focused on the things that matter, which is health and going home the same way you left. And so together, we all want to help you guys achieve those goals. So I'm going to stick with you, Jeremy. Next question. All right. Why is the partnership with Mobil Delvac so important?
Well, for one, you want to partner with people in the industry. This is an industry that is incredibly special. I don't know if everyone in here has done other things in life before you came and got into trucking, but this is unique. This is an industry where, for one, as big as it is, it's very tight, right? And people do business with people they know and trust. And relationships are established. I've been a little over about 23 years now in trucking, and I have relationships that will last a lifetime. And it's important to find the types of companies that you align yourself with that have the same values that you do. And especially as a nonprofit, I need to find the companies that share those values and are willing to support the movement that we're spearheading. And so from that perspective, I think it speaks a lot to Mobil Delvac as a company that you're front and center leading the way in terms of caring about the men and women who are the workforce, the backbone of this industry, both on the driver's side and the technician side.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. Thank you, Jeremy. What do you think, George?
Partners like these folks and others allow us to work with our local schools, the future workforce, and you as business and industry in the local community to connect that student with your place of business and help you grow your workforce from within your community. And without Mobil Delvac and other companies like that, we couldn't do that job. We're a 501c3. These folks are investing back in the future of your industry and your company indirectly, and sometimes you don't even know they're doing what they're doing for you.
You know, a lot of times I hear, oh, you're big oil, right? And really, the one thing I love about the Mobil Delvac brand is, you know, we genuinely want to support the well-being of the trucker. You know, we want to create tools, we want to create an environment that's welcoming, and, you know, oil isn't very emotional or maybe even sexy, right? We're not as cool as some of the others. But we generally want to help support your well-being and be there to when you're on the road. So, in wrapping up, all right, does anybody have any questions, or would you guys, anything from us that you'd like us to address with you? You know, what can fleets and shops and individuals do like yourselves to better the well-being of truckers? Is there any ideas or things you'd like to share before I call on you? There we go.
So the gentleman asked, how do you hire the kids? My philosophy is pretty simple. We have a national concern and a local solution. Get involved in your local school. Our field managers and folks like myself can help you do an introduction to your local school. And whether you're looking for technicians, you're looking for people to do social media, you're looking for accountants, you're looking for bookkeepers, they're in your local schools. And they don't know who you are as a business. They may drive by your company every day, but they don't know who your brand is and what you do. And a lot of times just going in as a guest speaker and talking to those students, they're interested in a career path, but they don't know you exist. So a lot of times it's a simple one-on-one in the school. Many of these schools have career fairs, they have open houses, but also if you build a relationship with your local school, it's not a bad idea to bring a couple of the seniors out to your shop and let them see what goes on. It really does drive that. If you want an idea of how many students right now are sitting in these vocational programs for auto, collision, and diesel, it's about 250,000 today. That's a lot of students. Anybody that tells you this generation isn't interested in working with their hands, they have no idea what's going on. They do. My youngest son is a diesel tech, and he loves what he does. But also for this generation, what's important is your culture, and especially the shop culture. If it's more of a family environment, that actually attracts this generation more than money, because they want that work-life balance, but they want to feel like they're part of something and not just a number. I hope that answers your question.
We've got some cool hats to encourage, you know, some questions here and get everybody, you know, excited about this part. They're fancy. Got to make me put it on? No.
Also, there's many schools in the area and around the country that are teaching CDL. So there's a group here called Next Gen, and I met a great group of kids. A young man, 17 years old, is working on his CDL. He wants to be a diesel tech, but he knows that it's going to open his opportunity to be a diesel tech in certain fleets if he already has his CDL once he graduates from high school. And I can't emphasize it enough. You pay taxes both as a professional company and personally into these school districts. Your return on investment is getting involved with them and drawing from those students. And if the school doesn't have an automotive program or a diesel, most likely I bet you they have an ag program. And a lot of those kids are in what we call ag mech classes or ag mechanics. And those are great kids. Most of the kids in those classes, both parents have the same last name. Think about that. They know there's 2 7 o'clocks. And they understand work ethic. A lot of these kids, they just want an opportunity. And they're everywhere. And a lot of times you drive by that school every day and don't realize it's a pond full of future workers for your organization.
How about you, Jeremy? You have any good ideas that we could do to drive, better well-being?
Well, first of all, it's getting into habits, right? That's really what even Project 61 is all about. It's a free mobile app, and the whole point of that is on a daily basis, on a regular basis, getting into habits around what we call, 5 axles of health. There's fuel, which is nutrition, food, right? What do you put in your body? You're not going to put, maple syrup in your truck, right? You're going to put the appropriate diesel fuel. Similarly, you need to put like the real kind of human food that we're supposed to eat, and it's mostly all of the things that you're not reading, a long list of ingredients on the label.
Guilty.
Right. Well, I mean, we all are. We're all American, and this is not a trucking industry issue, by the way. This is an American issue, but it's just most acute specifically in the over-the-road truck driver segment because you're on the road all the time. So if you're not real intentional, you're eating what is available in a truck stop or anywhere else that you might be able to find something. And you want to find something quick because you want to keep moving. So that's fuel. There's move, which is the important part of we've got to move. It's really hard when you're driving, 11 hours a day. You might take a 30-minute break, but the last thing you should do is go inside a truck stop and sit down. Or even if you just relax in your bunk, it's important to move and be real intentional about that. Sleep. Our bodies, a human body needs 6 to 8 hours of sleep a day, as consistently as you can do that. For truck drivers averaging less than 5 hours of sleep a night, I'm talking like closer to 4 3/4. That's not those 3 things. That is the recipe for an early exit in life. And it's going to manifest itself through a lot of different ways, metabolic diseases and diabetes and so on. But obesity runs rampant in trucking because of these things. And then mental health, which is the 4th of the 5 axles. Statistically speaking, connectivity. We humans value and need relationships, deep relationships with people. Hence the companionship with the dog. Some fleets don't allow that, so it's just not an option. But there is merit to the fact that relationship, that camaraderie, that companionship, we need as people. And when you're a truck driver and you don't have that, and you're isolated on the road so often, that is the equivalent of smoking 15 cigarettes a day. That's the equivalent to your health. I didn't make that up. The U.S. Surgeon General states that in a book called Together that I read recently, which was fantastic and eye-opening. This is a big deal. We need this. And then the last one is preventative maintenance, which we're all familiar with in the trucking industry, but think about that to your body. You make sure that you're getting regular checkups. You're making sure that you're more proactive than just reactive. So from that perspective, those are sort of getting into those sort of habits, and it's stuff that's easy to follow through the app. It will make a major difference in your life. You'll feel a lot better. You'll sleep a lot better. You'll be a happier person, and you'll live a lot longer. At least the risk of being another one of the 61-year statistic is drastically reduced.
Yeah, very good point. I think about, what are some ideas, right? I'm not that creative. How can I drive my culture? How can I make my shop, my maintenance team, my fleet do things a little different, right? And, some of the things that I would do with my crew when I was in the plant, I would have weight loss challenges, right? And we'd all weigh in, once a month or every other week. And we'd compete. Who doesn't love to compete? We like sports, right? We got March Madness going on. Everybody enjoying that, right? But, you have to make things fun. and so that you enjoy what you do. And whether it's your fleet team and you have a step challenge, it can be just simple things to make it fun to come to work, to be able to brag up on the mics or through your group text messages and saying, I was over 10,000 steps today. How about you? We've got to encourage each other to live our best life, right? That's what we say. We want to live our best life. So I encourage you all, and if you have an idea that you think would work with some of your crews or your team, feel free to share it. We can all learn from each other, right? So any ideas are great ones to share, and I'd love to give you a hat for your thoughts. All right.
If I could, first of all, to his point. Oh, do you have a question?
Do you have the mic? Sorry to make you repeat all that, but I think it's really good and we should all hear it.
Go ahead, it's on. Yeah, you
Test.
It's on. Don't worry about it turning it on. It's already on. Hey.
It's on. It's on.
Oh,
Test.
bummer.
Test.
There you go.
Okay, there it is. How do you bring the real truths from the students to the shops to the trucking industry? It sounds good, sounds great. How do you show them it wasn't really a light until COVID? You get in the truck, you drive 11 hours, you stop, you're hauling it's raining, snowing, tarping. There's a lot of variables there to make it fun. What makes it fun at the end of that 11 hours when they stop? What's going to be appealing to it? Is it, now it's starting to become a realization forefront. 10, 20 years ago, well, I drove that across the country. The trucks were terrible. There was no comfort in them. There was no Jeep, all that. So how do you make that more come to light? Because most people go to work from 7 to 5. They go home.
Yeah.
Right.
They get to sit down and eat dinner and talk to their families. When you're trucking, that's not a case. You say kiss them Sunday night, you're gone. You might be back in a month, week, you don't know. So how do you make that divide more apparent? What's real? What's the truth?
So on the technician side, it's not 7 to 5. Many of the fleets run 24/7, 365. My son works 410s, but his shift is 9 to something, and he lives on one side of Houston and the shop's on the other side of Houston. But they do things internally, like twice a month, they buy them lunch and stuff like that. But how to get the students out, first thing is, if you just go to the school, introduce yourself either to what used to be called the vocational director, CTE, campus principal, find those programs, and you want a kid to come out in what we call shadow. They do nothing but come to your shop, and you let them meet with some of the technicians, the parts department, service advisors. Let them see your facility. It's just like a meet and greet. It's like an informal interview. And a lot of times, these kids, all they know is what goes on in their school. They have no idea what goes on in your businesses. And what they're looking for is that culture. I hear every day that I lost a technician for 50 cents more an hour. You did not. My response to that is, why were they looking in the first place? Okay? When somebody quits, and every one of us has done this, when you quit an organization, what you're telling that person is the unknown is better than staying with you. And if I'm not happy, I'm looking, and when I go looking, I'll probably get more money. But if I'm happy, I'm not looking. And all of us understand that. And it comes down to the culture today. And for this generation, many of this generation was not blessed like we were for mom and dad to be still married at this point. And they may have one parent, and they're looking for that family environment, somebody to invest in them and think that there's some worth. And when you also hire these kids, they're not working to put gas in their car like we did as kids. they're probably supporting their brother or sister or the family at home. And you understanding that, you have a different type of student or young person with a different type of commitment level to you. But if you push them off as you're just a number, a time clock, boom, 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 they're gone. And I hope that makes sense to you. That's it. We say.
I have an idea just that I was thinking about, not to cut you off, but to give that family mentality, right? So they're working on the trucks. Well, if you also have your own fleet, maybe the maintenance guy should take a ride on one of those, deliveries so that they can see what it is that it takes to get the job done. They can experience what the driver experiences, and then it's kind of like a bond. Who doesn't love a road trip with somebody? And so it's about coming up with ways, again, drive culture, be relevant, make it cool, right? I've had the opportunity to travel a little bit internationally for work, and so I've seen some other countries, and I always come back and I'm like, thank God to be home. But everybody says how beautiful, Europe is, or, Greece, and, yada, yada. And I just think Americans don't realize how beautiful our own country is. Okay? Maine, stunning. Our national parks, gorgeous. And what are we doing to encourage drivers to take a step back and look at that? Like, I know that the ugly truths, but there's some really beautiful things. I mean, the northern lights that are showing up all over this country right now, the sunsets, everything like that. We should be taking a moment and observing our presence.
Sometimes we take that for granted, or we're just too busy, we're in the zone, and we're not paying attention, and so much of that that's a decision that we can make. And kind of what I was thinking when you were asking that question earlier is start the day off with a choice, because we do have a choice. Because we don't have control over a lot of things, right? But we do have control over how we're going to perceive whatever these things are, and how we're going to react, how we're going to respond. I don't control who my family members are, who my parents are, but I do control what kind of child or son I'm going to be. That's a choice. And that doesn't mean that it's all roses then, for the day if you're driving 11 hours. But what certainly helps is having that right frame of mind, that right perspective, that this is a good day. I'm going to pay attention to the beauty of being out on the road. And on top of that, when you can get things off on the right foot by getting some fresh air, getting water, proper hydration, not sugar upon sugar upon sugar in liquid form, but actually good food, human food, real food, and then and sunlight, and that's going to make you feel a heck of a lot better. And then when you do get stopped, you're like, okay, I got 20 minutes. Let me see if I can get a half mile in, or even a whole mile in if there's time, and I can get something to eat, something that's relatively healthy, and get back on the road. You're just in a better frame of mind. And then when you end the day, it's one of the blessings that we have today with technology. It's a blessing and a curse, technology is, but the blessing side, you can be far more connected today with family and loved ones, even if you're thousands of miles away, and you can see them face to face even. I mean, however, when you feel horrible because you got the day off, wrong attitude, wrong, choices throughout the day, all you want to do is lay in the bunk and doom scroll, and you're just compounding misery. So it's decisions, I think, is the important part. And then the one last thing real quick, since you mentioned a step challenge, is there's a 61-day step challenge. This is free. It's for everyone in the industry, drivers, everyone, technicians. It's a fun, engaging thing, both as a community, as an industry, but also you can create your own teams, your own company teams. That's the sort of thing that I think helps build culture, it helps drive engagement, and it helps stay top of mind the importance of movement and taking better care of ourselves.
And one last thing is, my friend says it best. You're never looking for a cookie, but it sure does taste good when you get one. When's the last time you told your employees, thank you, we appreciate what you do? Go out into the shop or a driver and just, instead of calling them because something went wrong, call them out of the blue and say, we really appreciate what you do. And it's those little things in life that sometimes we forget. And more, that plays into our current culture, is knowing that somebody cares. It sounds crazy, but
Yeah,
Go-
it really did.
it did. And they're essential, and technicians. And it really comes down to, and there's some fleets and companies out there that have almost no turnover. And it's why, you find out that the average technician has been in that shop for 15 years. What does that tell you? It's the same thing with if you go into a grocery store or a Lowe's and you see new people every time you go in. There's something wrong with the culture in that organization. But if you go into a place of business and you see the same person time after time, you know something good's going on. Your place needs to be a place where something good's going on. And also, the people that work for you, my Spanish teacher taught me water seeks its own level. You are who you associate with. Those people know other people that could probably come to work for you that they already associate themselves with, whether it's church or activities and stuff like that. Never underestimate your current workforce and how they can recruit for you.
Awesome, guys. Thank you. Any other questions? All right. Well, I hope you, okay. Well, I hope you took away some golden nuggets from us today that can help drive the culture you want to have in your business. I want to thank Jeremy and George. You guys killed it. Give them a round of applause. All right. And thank you guys for taking the time to sit down and listen and learn and take our, advice. We appreciate you and everything you do, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of the weekend. Enjoy Louisville. Lots of good pizza, I've heard. I've had some already, but looking for more. But anyway, y'all have a great night.
Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it.